An author named Neil Gaiman was at a dinner party once making small talk with another gentleman. The other man asked Gaiman what he did for a living, and he responded that he wrote comics. Now, Gaiman noticed the other man instantly lost all interest in the conversation, but he politely asked the names of some of the comics. Neil mentioned a few he'd written and finished with, "I also wrote this thing called Sandman." And the other man's eyes lit up as he exclaimed, "I know who you are! You're Neil Gaiman! My God, man! You don't write comics, you write graphic novels!" Now, Neil mused he felt like a woman who had just been informed that she was not a prostitute but a lady of the evening. He went on to note the man had obviously heard of Sandman, and heard good things, but had to place it inside of a box to make it seem respectable in his head. Now, Mr. Gaiman makes an interesting point. Comic books are a relatively new medium, but one that receives very little respect in the literary world. Words are okay, Gaiman says. They get Pulitzer Prizes. Pictures are okay. They hang in art galleries all over the world. But as soon as you put words and pictures together, people think it's for illiterates. There is a cultural prejudice against comics. Comic books have, however, on occasion been recognized as important works in mainstream literature. In 1991, the World Fantasy Award for Best Short Fiction went to issue number 16 of The Sandman, a monthly comic book published by DC and written by Neil Gaiman. However, immediately after Sandman won the award, the rules were rewritten to prevent a comic from ever winning again. This is the comic here. It's called A Midsummer Night's Dream. It entails William Shakespeare writing the play, A Midsummer Night's Dream, for the characters in the play. This is Lord Oberon, Lady Titania, and the Puck arriving at the stage to watch the play being performed for the very first time. In 2005, Time magazine named Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons one of the top 100 novels in the English language since the original publication of the magazine in 1923. One of the unique things about the book is an issue that is completely symmetrical, as in the first panel of the book corresponds to the last panel, the second panel to the second to last panel, and so on and so forth until we arrive at the middle. You can see the shape of an X being formed here by the characters, as well as the corresponding panels to the left and right, relating to each other as well. And finally, Maus, A Story of the Holocaust, toward Art Spiegelman by his father, was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in 1992, and it was also nominated for a National Book Critics Circle Award. Comic books also deal with important social issues on a regular basis, and the two major comic book companies, Marvel and DC, very recently featured major developments dealing with homosexual characters. Northstar, a gay male member of the X-Men, proposed to his boyfriend in a comic book last month and married him in the following issue, released this month. This is the first gay marriage in the history of major comics. Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern, was reimagined in a book called Earth 2, issue number 2, as being homosexual. He's the highest profile DC superhero to come out. This is the page where he was outed to the comic book public. There he is kissing his boyfriend, who he also later proposes to, or attempts to. Tune in next month. Earlier this year, the Avengers writer-director Joss Whedon made the decision that the Buffy the Vampire Slayer comic, a continuation of the TV show that he himself created, the lead character, Buffy Summers, would have an abortion. Now finally, in 1966, just 2 years after the historic Civil Rights Act, Stan Lee created the first mainstream black superhero, the Marvel character, the Black Panther. Now the Panther wasn't a sidekick or a racial caricature. T'Challa is the king of a proud, technologically advanced African nation called Wakanda. So at a time when overt racism and Jim Crow still tainted America, Marvel was selling comic books to kids depicting a strong-willed African hero fighting side by side as an equal with icons like Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. Comic books also can blend words and pictures, creating a unique way to experience a story that cannot be replicated in any other medium. Alan Moore, the writer of Watchmen, in an interview claimed that Pentagon tests in the 1980s revealed that comics are the optimum medium for imparting information that can be retained and remembered. The idea is that the left side of our brain processes words, and if the right side of our brain processes images, reading a comic forces both halves of our brain to work in tandem and is therefore more stimulating. Full disclosure, I could not find any evidence of these tests personally, but I still found the concept absolutely fascinating. Mr. Moore also makes the point that although film can be seen to have a similar effect blending words and pictures, film forces you to absorb images at 24 frames per second, whereas with a comic, you are free to examine each panel as it flows into the next at your leisure. Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, and Art Spiegelman are but a few of the talented writers who have achieved success and acclaim in the comic book industry. Comics have received the highest honors, dealt with important cultural topics, and stimulate the reader in the ways that other mediums cannot hope to duplicate. Hopefully one day, comic books will be viewed as the cultural landmarks and important works that they are, rather than childish doodles with silly words.